Hey, how's it going? I just want to do a quick video on financial stuff. I just posted a video called "The Wealth Gap is Increasing Despite Economic Growth," and I'll just play a little bit at the end of this interaction. It's just ridiculous. Um, this is a news anchor giving his insight into economic things, but there's kind of a gem, which is now obvious, I think, to all of us. And then I want to talk about a point that's made at the end. So here we go.
Reasons, and that's when I think the Fed rightly tried to cause the wealth effect with QE.
So there's truth in plain sight. The Fed tried to cause the wealth effect with QE. So QE, quantitative easing, money printing, is the Fed causing a wealth effect, which is in the title of this video. The wealth gap is increasing, so it's only benefiting a few. So he's basically stating what's true. Again, now it's in the mainstream. So a lot of these reality deniers, especially a lot of these ballers, these shills, need to get up to speed.
Yeah, because we're coming out of a recession. You know, if you're trying to cause the wealth effect, you're trying to get stock prices up. The people who own the stocks are going to benefit. Although I think we do leave out a lot of 401ks and a lot of
So he's saying the people that will benefit from money printing, people who own a lot of stocks, and that's obviously the wealthy, certainly not the poor. The poor probably don't even know how to even buy a stock if they even had the money to do so.
You know, you don't think of all fat cats. A lot of people have their retirement.
Yeah, but as a percentage of wealth and the overall,
But the last
overall
2 years
wealth goes to the top.
the income inequality has actually, I would say, flattened.
So this shill is now saying, well, it's flattened. It's nothing to worry about now. It's all leveled out and all that. It's not really getting worse, so let's not worry about it. This is what he's trying to say. But it's because the money printing is starting to kind of slow down. You can't just print forever. So he's making an absolutely satanic point.
They getting worse the last 2 years, and most of it was in the first of the 8 years of a previous administration.
So it hasn't flattened, it continues to rise, but
This guy corrects him, saying that it is still rising, technically.
my point is...
So does the stock market, though.
Correct.
For different reasons, though.
Right. My point is that Jeff Bezos adding $100 billion to his wealth over the past 2 years is not the reason we have stagnant wages.
All right, we got to
These are
get
two
to it.
separate phenomena.
So that's the point that I wanted to talk about, and I've done a little bit of commentary on a modern day debate show with debating minimum wage. And so what this person at the end is saying is Jeff Bezos making more and more money is not the reason why we have stagnant wage growth. And so which is also sort of an oxymoron. You can't have stagnation and growth, but they always just use these terms to make it sort of seem better. Like they'll use wage growth, but then they'll say, oh, it's stagnating or it's leveled off or whatever. You can't have growth that's leveled off. It's like, it's not growing anymore. It's flat. So, but that's not really the point. What I wanted to say is that these people are trying to say that the rich getting richer is not causing the poor getting poorer. That's essentially what the person is saying near the end. That's his sort of thesis. He's saying they're two separate phenomena. But by the law of conservation of money, there's only a finite amount of money. You know, it's not infinite. It's close to infinite with the amount of money printing, but with this quantitative easing. But there is a limited amount out there. And so it has to go in certain places, you know. And so they're saying a lot of it's going in the stock market, which is true. And then people like Jeff Bezos and all that will benefit. But, if that money was released or not put in the stock market and given to employees instead of building the equity, allowing Bezos to own more and more of his own company and others, then, there wouldn't be stagnant wage growth, quote unquote growth. And so this is basically, these are Satanists. Like they'll sit there and talk like they're experts. They're just actors. And I think it's becoming very, very obvious, certainly to me, that they're just actors, because no one would say anything that absurd that money going to the rich is not making the poor poorer. Well, where else is the money going to come from? It's not like, and again, they could just print more money and give it to the poor, but that would debase everybody's, currency, like the money that they have. So there is a finite amount of money and it's going into the stock market and into the salaries of the wealthy. That's just very, very obvious. And so, the stats that they show in this video are just absurd. You know, it's just the amount that the 1% have is ridiculous. And I think that one could take the stance that they're just greed taking over, but there's a system in place, and in particular, the corporate media, which let's just say the corporate media is just lying on behalf of the wealthy, which is fine, that they would be in control of them because they own all the media outlets. But the reason I know that we're in the end times is that either this is just by chance that this is all coordinated and happening, or God is behind it. And the strongest reason that I know that God is behind it is because the people that are in the sort of 99% don't say anything. It's like this, for people who are getting leveraged, over leveraged, taken advantage of, they don't call this out. Like, they don't find this to be ridiculous. The kind of statements that are being made on, like, for this clip, CNBC television. And so that to me is why I'm pretty certain, if I were to bet, which obviously I wouldn't bet on this, but we have to be in the end times, because the people who are getting enslaved are not even saying anything about something like this that's very, very obvious. And so this gets, this kind of commentary, this dialogue gets unchecked, by a majority of people. There is obviously a group of people who are speaking out against this, financial commentary and all that kind of stuff, but there's no large group behind it. There's no, it's certainly not the church, the Christian church, or any religious group, or any quote unquote institution is not, calling this out. It's just, there's little people here and there, Greg Manarino, Peter Schiff's, AMTV, and all that kind of stuff. And so I also noticed that AMTV is starting to talk more about flat earth, which I find interesting. But, it's that, again, this to me is just, I really don't know I don't know what to make of this unless it's Bible prophecy. And I'm just saying this to be totally honest. And if it's not, it's not. That's just, to me, very, very strange, the world that we're living in. If this many people can be clueless, and just have this many people say this many lies and not go unchecked, or no one cares. Like, this to me is absolutely outlandish, that this kind of a statement can be passed off by an expert on mainstream TV and it not be absolutely ridiculed by the panel. And let's just say that they're bought out, which they are, by the society as a whole. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.